What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode. Today we're actually going to take a look at the Pentax K-3 Mark III electronic shutter. It's a new feature. Technically the K-3 Mark III had the electronic shutter, but it only worked originally for pixel shift images. Other than that, there was no electronic shutter. So with firmware update 1.10, there is now a full electronic shutter, which is accessible at any time. And we're just going to take a look at it. There's been some ramblings online in regards to, well, that's weird. Why would they even have an electronic shutter? When would you actually use electronic shutter? Well, there are some use cases. For example, street photography. You know, you want to be stealthy and there's virtually no noise. I would not suggest using the electronic shutter in viewfinder mode, only because of the fact that it completely blacks out the viewfinder due to the fact that the mirror has to actually switch up in order to do that. So with that said, using the OVF with the electronic shutter, the mirror flips up and then you literally can't see anything through the viewfinder whatsoever. It works in high-speed continuous shooting. The only thing is you don't know how many shots you're taking, because in live view, it's literally dead silent. There is no noise whatsoever. You just hold the shutter button down. You have no clue until you let go. But for street photography or other situations where the camera needs to make absolutely no noise, electronic shutter does come in very, very handy. There is one caveat, which is with pretty much every electronic shutter. Extremely high speed shooting, so very, very high shutter speed, actually produces warped images. It has to do with the sensor readout. And it's not very good. The K-3 Mark III does go up to 1/16,000th of a second. I have no idea why you would need 1/16,000th of a second. That seems kind of crazy to me. But hey, specs are specs, right? It's not as good as the KP, which I believe was 1/24,000th of a second. However, 1/16,000th of a second is way more than enough. I barely even get up to 1/8,000th of a second in my regular shooting. So anyway, let's just take a look at the electronic shutter on the K-3 Mark III and setting it up and adding it to the control panel, which is another thing. Amazing attention to detail on the K-3 Mark III in regards to user customizability and options that are available. But yeah, let's just get right to it.
So the first thing that you're going to want to do is go into the menu. It's the very first option here, camera, still image, and you're going to go down to number 3, and you'll notice that there is now shutter mode selection. Right now it is an MS for mechanical shutter, and here's the option for electronic shutter. Now what I've actually done here is I went into the control panel, if I could find it. Where are we here? I think it's here. Yep, control panel. And I actually added it still image, and I added the electronic shutter to the control panel, as you can see here. MS. Right? So basically you click OK, and then you can change whatever settings you want in that particular square. So basically what that translates into is when I go into info, when I'm at the standby screen, go into info, and I have mechanical shutter, and I can just use the rear E dial to switch over to electronic shutter. If I want to change any of the other parameters, I can use the control, the 4-way controller, and I can also touch whichever one I want with the rear screen. So that's how I've set it up, so I can very quickly access it. Go into info, want to switch to electronic shutter, okay. Want to switch back, and you don't have to hit OK. You can just hit the shutter release button. It'll lock in the setting that you had. So electronic shutter, yep. Go back in. It's in electronic shutter. Want to switch to mechanical, half press shutter button, and if we go back in, it's in mechanical. Now, what does that look like through the viewfinder when you're shooting in electronic shutter mode? Well, let's find something to focus on, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, now just as a reminder, I am in electronic shutter mode. So here's what happens in the viewfinder. And if I do continuous shooting, you don't see anything. So how many images did I just take? Well, let's see. I just took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 in continuous shooting because I took the one single image before. So that's the thing. You can't see what you're actually shooting when you're using the viewfinder. It just completely blacks out. Now let's switch to live view and make sure that we're still in electronic shutter mode. Actually, I'll put this in mechanical so you can hear the difference. So here we are in live view. And now let's switch to electronic shutter. Absolutely silent. You don't hear anything. Except if you're, let's change the aperture here. Let's go down to f4 so the lens is wide open. So there's no sound from the aperture motor. And there you go. So as long as you're shooting wide open, it's virtually silent. Now let's stop the lens down, go to f8, and the sound that you're hearing is the aperture mechanism actually stopping the lens down. But even then, it's pretty quiet. Let's go right by the lens here. And now let's switch it to wide open. Absolutely no sound. So there you have it. So in a nutshell, that is the electronic shutter function courtesy of firmware 1.10 on the Pentax K-3 Mark III. I've used it doing some street photography, kind of stealthy sort of stuff, and yeah, it worked out great. You know, especially if you've got. Here's another example. If you're shooting something, you know, with the family or whatnot, and a lot of them are camera shy, they don't really like getting their picture taken, but you want some of, you know, the as it happens kind of thing. You know, nothing staged, just, you know, actual real life situations. Now you can actually get away with shooting and nobody will even know because the camera makes absolutely no noise, and I have been able to pull that off because my daughter hates photos and I was able to get some. But anyway, that's it for this video. If you like the video, leave a like. If you haven't already, please do subscribe, helps me out. If you'd like to support the channel, I'll leave that information at the bottom of the description, somewhere down there. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and you will see me on my next video. I'm out.